Jared, I wanted to ask you this. So, really, since the season ended, you were the only player to make any real headlines. You signed with the New Jersey Jackals of the Frontier League, an independent professional club. How's that experience been for you?
It's been great so far. I'm learning new things every day from some great baseball players, some great pitchers, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity I've been given postseason.
Yeah, and your stats so far have shown something pretty interesting to look at. You do have an ERA of 4.22, but you do lead the team in strikeouts with 22 so far, along with the 21 and one-third innings that you have been able to pitch so far as a member of the Jackals. How do you see yourself working towards using your experience in the college level to try and work your way to keeping some success at the pro level?
Yeah, I think just not trying to do too much. I think a lot of younger guys, this goes along with some of the advice I've received. A lot of young guys will try to do too much, try to impress too much. Instead of, our catcher, Jason Agresti, told me just pitch what got you here, and that's really rang in my head. And I've just tried to pitch with what got me here and just pitch to my abilities and not try to do too much. And it's worked in my favor so far.
Now, what I want to ask you, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, one game in particular is one of the games that got you here, definitely, is that game you pitched against Albany going all the way. And you are now part of a long list of Seawolves pitchers that have turned seasons around on great performances. And take us through that. That was an experience for you. Especially, it was a great way to end your Stony Brook career. It would have been better if you go on to the next level. But to go out with a win like that had to be satisfying.
Yeah. Our team, the fight we showed in that last inning and the ability to keep having good at-bats and just to stick with our approach was amazing. And to see it all come into fruition in that ninth inning was amazing. And, that game is definitely one I won't forget. I told a lot of people that that's probably one of my best games I've ever pitched. And a lot went into it. And our pitching coach, Tyler Kavanaugh, called an amazing game. John Tuchillo was amazing behind the plate. So many things went right for us, only to go wrong a few days later.
So, Jared, in that 9-inning complete game that you pitched against Albany, you also made it through 120 pitches. Looking back at your stats over the last 3 seasons with Stony Brook, that looks like to be the most pitches that you have ever thrown in a game at the Division I level. Knowing that your season was on the line, and despite allowing Albany the first 2 runs of the game, what gave you the confidence to try and stay in the game for as long as possible and try and throw as many pitches as you can?
Yeah, I think it was just the competitive nature that I have in me. I think, when I go on the mound, I'm trying to be the most competitive guy on the field. And, that game, it was do or die for our team. And, having the leadership role that I did this season, I didn't want to let anyone down. And if that game was going to be a win or a loss, I wanted it to be in my hands. So I'm glad the way it turned out it did.
Now, I wanted to, I don't mean to disrupt the flow of the conversation, but I want to digress a little. So going back to the pro career, your first day as a professional, was that overwhelming to you to be around all these professional ball players? Like, what was that like? Take us through that.
Yeah, it was definitely a different feel from where you're being around a bunch of guys that are younger than you as a senior, and then you're kind of one of the youngest guys to walk into that new locker room. So it was definitely an interesting transition. But the guys on my current team have been nothing more than great to me and accepting of me coming into the team, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Okay, and you touched on this just a couple minutes ago, but the last time we saw you, you were dominating that Albany lineup, right? The complete game, only 2 runs. You also made a lot of plays fielding your position. Overall, it was just a standout performance from you with your team and their backs against the wall. So now, would you say that was the best moment of your career? Like, what was the best moment, the single best moment of your career?
Man, I mean yeah. If I had to pick, that would probably that and my start against Clemson. Actually, no. The best memory is definitely the dog pile that we had in 2019 when we won the championship. That is easily the best moment for me.
I think we can all appreciate that. Now, you were the most unique starter in that Seawolf rotation, right? One, you were the lefty. You weren't just a lefty. You were the only lefty that any of us knew about, right? And 2, you had some humble beginnings. You were a JUCO product from California, right? You weren't like the rest. So how did that beginning impact you for your Stony Brook career? How did that mold you into the pitcher that you've become today?
Yeah, I didn't have the greatest stuff or the greatest repertoire or anything like that. So I knew out of high school I would need to go to junior college to develop and get myself ready for the next level. And I learned a lot there. That's where I really started to learn how to pitch and not how to just kind of throw, I guess. And I learned a lot about the game there, and my coaches had been there for quite a few years, so he knew he had a lot to give, and I'm so thankful for all my coaches that I've had in the past, and it's really what's gotten me to this point right now.
Now, how crucial was, just speaking of coaches, how crucial was Matt Sank towards your development? Because you really stepped it up to the next level once you got here.
Yeah, Coach Sank, he really. I know Chris Hamilton touched on it last time he was on the show, but he really turns us into men throughout the time that we're at Stony Brook, and that I think that speaks volumes not only about him as a coach, but as a person as well. And for my development, he really got my he put my hard hat on and got me ready for what's going on after college. Sometimes if baseball doesn't work out, I can always say that I'm prepared for life, thanks to him.
So, Jared, I want to go back to your 2 seasons at the JUCO level at the College of San Mateo. Your freshman year, you looked good going 3-3 with 10 starts, helping the team to a conference championship. Then you made a drastic improvement the next year, going 10-1 with a 2.55 ERA and first team all-conference honors. Seeing how you made that significant improvement at the JUCO level, was that part of your decision to make a transfer over to the Division I level?
Yeah, definitely. I think the respectable numbers that I did put up in junior college, I felt like I had earned a spot to be somewhere at the Division I level, and I'm just so thankful for Coach Sank, Coach Martin, and Coach Kavanaugh for believing in me when, not many other people did. I wasn't, like I said, I didn't have the best stuff. I wasn't the hardest thrower back then. And, but those coaches saw something in me that I knew I had in me all along. I just needed a chance. And I was given it by them, and I'll be forever grateful for them.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of the development of players under Coach Senk and his staff, the one thing that I've heard from several baseball players and alumni over the years is that you really get an education in baseball when you play for Coach Senk. You're expected to know what's going on. You're expected to be able to make decisions. You're expected to be able to know the rules, obviously, but know the strategies and think like the coaching staff. In other words, you have to be in sync. And did you notice that too as you grew with the pitching staff and grew as a pitcher for Stony Brook?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I missed the beginning there. It fuzzed out.
Oh, okay. Okay, it didn't come in. One thing I've noticed talking to players over the years is that one important thing that Coach Senk teaches is an awareness of the game. That you almost know, no one has to tell you what to do out there. You know, you're taught how to do it. And how much of a difference does that make with you as a pitcher and communicating with your catcher and communicating with the coaching staff that you're all in sync, which is what they're really trying to do out there. They want you to have your head in the game. How much of that did you notice, and how much of that do you appreciate now you're at this level?
Absolutely. I think you're those past players, and you're totally right. Our preparation going into each week was far better than a lot of others. I think we were, one of the hardest working teams, arguably anywhere. And part of that has to do with the coaching staff and their willingness to put us in a great position every week against whoever we were playing. Didn't matter who we were playing. They prepared us the best they could every single week. And I think that translates a lot on the field when we do get in those weekend series like we had this year. And, yeah.
And also, even over the course of a season, and of course you've been with the Seawolves for several seasons, just the growth that happens when you open up your season, and many times it's usually down south someplace, versus right around the time the America East kicks in. And you can watch the growth as a spectator, but as a player and on the team, you've seen this happen more than once, where you see maybe the hitters behind the pitchers or vice versa, and all of a sudden, by the time the conference schedule kicks in, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, they've prepared us, since day one, and it doesn't matter which guys you're working with. Coach always says, I'm going to put my best 9 out there, no matter who it is. I'm going to put my best 9 out there. And, he likes to call it a meritocracy. And he sticks to that, which a lot of players really respect. And it allows the players to be coachable. And I think the relationship between the players and coaches this year was far better than of the other teams I had been a part of, and it speaks volumes to our success this year, and how we were all in sync towards the latter half of the year, and especially in the beginning of conference. We had one of the best conference starts that Stony Brook has ever seen. Stony Brook baseball, has ever seen. So I would agree that we were very in sync.
So, Jared, at Terra Nova High School, you had a good career there playing baseball, where you completed a no-hitter with 4 complete games with 5 wins while earning Conference Pitcher of the Year as a senior in 2016. You also played basketball, earning the league MVP honor in 2015 and leading the Tigers to a conference title. Seeing how you were pretty much successful in both sports, how difficult was it to choose which one you want to continue to pursue a career in, moving to college and pro eventually?
Man, I had to open back up the yearbook on that one. Basketball was super fun. I actually enjoyed it. In high school, I actually enjoyed it more than baseball, but really, me and my parents talked about it. I actually almost went to junior college for both sports before choosing CSM, which didn't have a basketball team, because we knew it was the best option for me. And, to further my career, I think being a left-handed pitcher had better of a chance than, there's only so many 6'3" guards in the world. So I think left-handed pitching was my better option, and ultimately that's kind of what led to the decision.
So, Jared, I wanted to ask you this. The past couple of weeks, we've had Taryn Oldmiller and Allie Kennedy, and obviously last week Chris Hamilton on, and I had asked a couple of them about like teammate mentors that they had when they were younger. But you got here when you were 21. You got here when you were already a junior in college. So I wanted to ask you the reciprocal. Were there any younger teammates that you felt the need to mentor or take under your wing? Like, can we expect will we be meeting a Jared Milch disciple sometime in the future?
Not when I first came in. I think this,
right, because you were still a new guy.
I think this year, Mark Allday is going to be. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people as long as he, works hard this summer. He's got a wipeout slider, good fastball, good life on it. I think as long as he works hard this summer, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this upcoming season. Devin Sharkey, another guy that had some experience this year. He got his feet wet a little bit. He was injured his first year, but I think as hard as a worker as Devin is, I think he can surprise some people as well.
That's awesome. And so I want to ask you about this too, because I thought this was really cool. So I was standing on the first base side, down the first base line for your final start, mm-hmm. right? And the very last play of your career, if I'm remembering this correctly, was a comebacker to your left, and you made a pretty nice pickup. My memory tells me that you got more bare hand on it than you did the glove, and then you flipped it to Hamilton, and then right after that, you looked into your dugout and you screamed, "Let's go!" And you got everybody pumped up. Everybody, me, my friend who I was with, everybody at Joe Nathan Field was pumped. How important is that intensity for you guys, especially bottom of the ninth, backs against the wall, do or die? How important is it for you to keep, for the whole team, to keep that intensity in games of that magnitude?
Absolutely. I think, like you said, the backs against the wall, that's our season right there. This is our season. This is the bottom of the ninth. Before the play even happened, I knew I had to try to fire us up one last time. And I knew once I made the out that some needed to happen, because we were too good. I knew in my head in between innings that we were too good to be two in a barbecue like that. We were too good of a team, and we knew we had it in us. And I think, like we mentioned earlier, the fact that we were so in sync that we all met each other on that energy in that bottom of the ninth, it was like, okay, it's time to do this now.
So did you know you guys were going to do it right then and there?
Yeah, I think we were just putting together such good at bats all game, and it just felt like we just needed one more chance at it. And that bottom of the ninth, we got our chance. Once Brett Paulson tied it, Evan Giordano came up and took it, and you're feeling on top of the world on that day.
Now, I just want to ask one more question. So when you were in the dugout right after making that play, did you like think about how nice a play that was? Because that actually, it's such an underrated aspect of pitchers fielding their positions. But you are a great athlete. I mean, we were just talking about how good a basketball player you were. Did you realize how nice a play that was? Like, that was a really nice last play to have as a Stony Brook Seawolf.
Thank you. I honestly wasn't even, I wasn't thinking that. The competitor in me was like, we just need to win this game. I wanted to win it so bad because I knew our team was talented enough to not be, I'm trying to say it nicely.
You don't have to. I knew we were better.
I knew we were better than the team we were playing, and it just felt like we were having such good at bats, like I said, and it just I was so set on winning that game and just keeping our team in it, and that's really all I was thinking about. Not really about the play or any of that.
Now, I want to wind the clock back a little bit.
Go ahead. Yeah.
A few hours. One thing that Coach Sink likes to do in a postseason situation, a tournament, is not tell his pitchers when they're going until just before. When did you hear you were going to get this start?
Technically, I knew I was getting game 2 before the main game with DeGennaro and Sinacola's matchup. I knew I was getting game 2 prior to the first game of the conference. So we had the first 2 games set up.
Now, after your game, how does rotation break down after that? When do the guys find out when they're going to go?
I would say the night before.
There you go. Yeah, because I mean, you got to appreciate what's going on here. You want everybody to be ready, obviously.
Right.
But you have an idea when you're going to go based on how the rotation breaks down and who you're facing, who the opposing pitcher is, like you just said. But they don't make it official until the night before. Now we move the clock forward. You're looking to play NJIT. Well, maybe I'm moving it too far forward. But the fact of the matter is that Stony Brook has never won a tournament, an America East tournament, having lost one game. You would have been the first had you done it. The only other time they did win a tournament after losing one game was in the regional and super regional in 2012 on the way to the College World Series. Only other times they did it. Otherwise, it was 3 and onward. But you're in a situation now, everybody knows the weather's not going to be good. Take us through all that.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. I think personally there was a lot more that could have been done. It's unfortunate that the weather was how it was that weekend. Knowing that beforehand, anyone can open their iPhone and look at the weather throughout the week and put games a day earlier, start the tournament a day earlier. There's a lot of factors that go into planning those types of things.
Now, how often do you think about that day? Like, how often do you think about what could have been?
It pains me to say, Mike, but I would argue like every day since then. So,
yeah, that's unfortunate. And we were talking about it later that night, how our hearts broke for obviously the whole roster, but especially for the kids graduating, you, Turcotte, Hamilton, everyone, so that even just hearing you say that now that still stings me, and I'm not even on the team. So that's unfortunate, but that's insightful too. That lets us know really how soured some of you guys still are.
Mm-hmm.
So did you know who's scheduled to pitch?
Scheduled to pitch the NJIT game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Turcotte was gonna keep going. He was ready to go for that game.
That's pretty. That's pretty Iron Man of him to throw 55 pitches and then go right again the next day. That's
absolutely.
He's a truck horse, isn't he?
It speaks volumes to the kind of guy he is and the kind of teammate, especially the kind of teammate he is and the leader that he is. Willing to do anything. I think that was a lot of our seniors' mindset, was willing to do anything to get to the point that we got to.
And that, right, just as you said, I mean, that speaks to all of you guys. And we're losing 3 seniors, right? You, Herman, and Turcotte. And, I mean, you had that 120 pitch outing, right, against Albany. And there was that, obviously, Turcotte was going to throw another however many pitches after throwing 55 the day before. Brian Herman's last outing went over 7 innings. I mean, you guys really gave us length and quality and quantity. I mean, you were awesome to watch every single weekend. So who's going to fill these shoes? There's 3 holes to fill. Who is stepping into this rotation next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the strides that Josh O'Neill has made since he's been here, the effort and the competitive nature that runs him in the weight room and everything else. I think Josh could be a good candidate. Nick DeGennaro obviously is the guy. I fully expect him to take over that conference next year, as he did this year.
Right.
But even next year, I think he'll even take another jump. And then, there is some talented freshmen coming in. That could be an option for the coaches, and a lot of it goes into how hard are these guys going to work over the summer. A lot of guys, I think they're looking to make a big leap because you're right, there is some big spots to fill, and there's definitely a lot of questions surrounding that. So I think a lot of these guys, like I've told them, are going to have to go into this summer with a mindset that they're going to have a significant role next season.
Well, speaking of NJIT, because we shouldn't just ignore this, right? We touched up on it with Hamilton last week. They were your fiercest rivals this year, and they themselves created that rivalry. Obviously, they were very chirpy. The parents were into it. They got the Stony Brook parents into it. Obviously, you guys fought back and retorted. Umpires had to get involved. All 9 meetings between you guys this year were very highly competitive, chirpy, fight-feeling games. Was that the biggest rivalry you ever experienced at Stony Brook?
At Stony Brook, yeah, for sure.
And what would it have meant to you to have knocked them off?
Oh, man. I think the competitiveness of both teams is what causes it, and to get past them would be pretty cool. I think it would feel a lot better knowing what happened already, but in the moment, it's 2 teams going at it. And I think there would have been a lot more mutual respect if the game had been played out and we had won.
Well, so being that wasn't the case, I don't mean to rub salt in the wound, obviously, but being
Right.
that wasn't the case, like you said, is there less mutual respect and more contempt for them? Or would you say there is still more respect than hate?
I don't know. It's hard because I've only been through 1 year of it, and I think that it's obviously just getting started. So I'd be interested to see how it goes next season. I wish I could be there for it, but unfortunately I can't. But
You're chasing your own career, so you're excused. We'll excuse your absence for you.
And I think the level of respect has dropped very far, personally, but I can't say much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, how can you imagine Matt Sank's going to try and push this into some sort of new rivalry with NJIT now that they're officially part of the America East?
Yeah, I think they definitely have claimed that spot as our biggest rival, moving forward.
I mean, that's pretty surprising, the fact that normally you would consider it to be UAlbany regardless of what conference, because you're pretty much one of the two fewest competitive schools that represent the State University of New York. But, I mean, like, Binghamton, kind of the third wheel, basically. I mean, you put more focus, but now NJIT, they are pretty much closer than Binghamton and UAlbany, so that's probably a moot point.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think it's weird. It's weird to think about that they're in a different state, but they're actually closer. But yeah,
Technically, the closest that a school is to Stony Brook is Hofstra. We always know that. You always get that Long Island rivalry, but I'm sure the NJIT rivalry is going to be just as exciting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be something for a lot of people to keep their eyes on next year, and that first game is going to have quite the intensity. I hope it's at Joe Nathan, so I can get a good view of everything that's happening, and Sam Niederman on the mic and you guys on the radio and all the good stuff that Joe Nathan comes with. So
that was a great fun fact. I mean, that was a great answer in general. That was a great fun fact. Thank you for that. I think that's going to get mentioned at least every single time Stony Brook plays NJIT next year now, that how Stony Brook and NJIT are closer than Stony Brook and Albany and Stony Brook and Binghamton. I think I never really viewed you guys as crosstown rivals until now.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look out for, and it's definitely exciting for the conference. I think as much build up as it's brought to the conference, I think in the meantime it's going to be good for the conference if we get the right commissioner in it to grow our conference. I think it'll be a good thing in the end.
How much of an advantage does an America East player have being able to point to a link, for example, just for a demo? In other words, you can be scouted on America East TV. Obviously, they bring scouts in live all the time, thanks to the connections that Coach Sank has. But getting that exposure to people who can actually make a contribution to your future, that's got to be huge.
Absolutely. I think, our coaches, not only with all the broadcasts and everything that we have, our coaches put us, not only in the best position on the field, but, in life. And I think that they're always looking out for our best interest. And, sometimes in the moment you don't see it, but then, once you're gone, you always realize it. And that you just can't say enough about those guys and, what they do for their players. And it's been a very good experience.
So you just said this before, and it is probably pretty much an interesting fact for me as well. Even though Stony Brook's season is over in baseball, what hasn't ended is Sam Niederman pretty much following you and every other Seawolves pro career right now at this point. After him following the team over this past season, how has he kept up the relationship between you and everyone else?
Yeah, Sam's reached out numerous times to me, and we've been, conversating about just him coming to a Jackals game, which he was able to make, and just keeping in touch because he was an amazing guy, and he's still a very important part of the Stony Brook community, and especially actually my parents owe him a big one because they got to see some great live streams back from California thanks to him. So, I'm forever thankful for all that Stony Brook, the media that has done broadcasting our games because, without that, my parents would just be clicking away at the live stats. You know what I mean? So
I have a question for you. Can you guys, I was told this was true by previous players. Can you guys hear us on the field? Can you hear the broadcasters?
Yeah, you can from certain positions. So like the pitcher and the catcher, sometimes over at first, I feel like Chris could hear you. And then maybe at third, Evan could hear you. Besides that, I don't know if many others. I would say like 4 or 5 guys on the field could hear.
Well, tell me this. Has there ever been an instant where either John Tuchillo or Shane Paradine has mentioned to you about us broadcasting with our broadcast, since pretty much they are the closest ones to us in any regard?
No, yeah. Sometimes it's even like you can't hear anything except what's going on in your mind when you're catching and when you're pitching, because there's so much that goes into the game within the game when it comes to pitching and catching, and Johnny and Shane Paradine are getting signals from Coach Kavanaugh, and then they're relaying them to us. So it's probably hard for them to hear.
It gives us a little relief that we're not like interrupting your thoughts in any way.
Not at all.
It's all about the focus.
Not at all. Like I said, a lot of people are focused on the task at hand, and and it's like we're thankful that there's even broadcast. There's some teams that you can only follow on live stats and stuff like that. So it's not an issue to anyone.
Why don't we talk a little bit more about John Tuchillo? Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't remind our listeners that we are on with Stony Brook left-handed pitcher Jared Milch, who is now one of the most recent alumni. And we were talking, obviously, about becoming one, okay, what you've been doing now as an alum. How much do you get to follow even some of the guys that came before you? Because, let's say, for example, today, the Mets are playing the Phillies, and Travis Jankowski was playing for the Phillies today. Do you guys stay in touch with some of the guys that make their progress through the pros?
I wouldn't say stay in touch, but we're definitely watching. The Stony Brook community is definitely one whole group, whatever you want to call it, and you look up to those guys. I think they're at the place where everyone that comes through this baseball program wants to be at. So I think looking up to them is something you can learn from and figure out your own way to get to where they are.
Okay, now I don't mean to change course again, but we name dropped John Tuchillo earlier. Now I have a John Tuchillo related question. So obviously, best rotation in the America East. The common denominator for that was John Tuchillo, right? John Tuchillo got to catch all four of you guys. What was it like having somebody who was so steady and so reliable back there? Somebody who threw base runners out with ease. He was great at blocking balls in the dirt. How awesome is it to have such a strong battery with a guy like Tuchillo?
Man, yeah, he's everything you could ask for in a catcher. I mean, you named them all right away, and defensively, he's up there with the best prospects in the nation. I really, you talk about pitchers and delivery to the plate, and a lot of teams have to be, a 1.3, 1.4 seconds to the plate, and we had guys as high as 1.6, and Tuchillo's still on a dime throwing them out. So it puts you in a different mindset as a pitcher. There's a form of comfortability that you get, and you can place your pitches where you want to, and having that trust in Johnny to get it done for you behind the plate is huge for a pitcher's mindset and for their abilities.
That's really cool. So we understand that you have really been really connecting with a lot of baseball players over the last few years, and one of those baseball players I understand in particular, who you knew back in high school, who you faced off against once, Chris Bubik, if I'm pronouncing his last name right. He is currently one of the bullpen pitchers for the Kansas City Royals. How big is it to know that you are been able to get to know these types of players that have been able to go pro, seeing as, of course, you want to do the same thing too?
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I was like a little skinny sophomore in high school when I got to face against him. He'd probably no clue what I am. So, but that was a pretty cool experience. That was my first kind of like experience going against a big prospect in a way. And, even the guys I'm playing with now, there's at least one MLB guy from each team that I'm playing against. So it's been a really cool experience to play against these caliber of players.
Yeah, he had some good experience going to Stanford. He looked really good once it came down to the late stretch. He went to play Cape Cod Baseball League, and I understand that just recently he had a bullpen appearance against the New York Yankees back on June 22nd. And since it was at Yankee Stadium, I'm sure it seemed like something that you could have been able to go to and cheer on, probably for somebody who you knew personally.
Yeah, I didn't really know him personally. I just played against him one time, but that would have been cool. I know he's been a starter before he got moved to the bullpen. So, and to watch that type of guy, and him being a left-hander I really try to be a student of the game. Even today, I still feel like I'm a young student of the game, so I try to learn from a lot of these guys, especially left-handers that I'm able to see and even play against.
So I want to go back to the your last start for Stony Brook, which we did talk about before. You being part of that, being able to try and stay in there for as long as you can, enough for your team to bail you out and actually give you credit for that win in the bottom of the ninth. It allowed you to go to finish your season 6-4, rather it be an even 500 record for the starts that you have. You've made 10 starts. So you had 13 games played. So going 6-4 rather than 5-5, how do you like that, knowing that it's a winning record rather than a 500 record, showing that how you can really try and get as many wins as possible?
Yeah, it looks a lot better, obviously, and to have that type of team fight for you speaks volumes to the type of team that we had, and those guys were, on the same page, in the same energy as our seniors, and all having one common goal, and not really thinking about that in the moment, but it was a pretty cool game. for sure.
Well, we would have forgiven you anyway. I think after watching DeGrom get so many no decisions and unfair losses, you know that a pitcher's individual win-loss record is misleading, doesn't tell the story. But I want to elaborate on a little bit of what Zach said. So Zach mentioned you started 13 games. In those 13 games, Stony Brook was excellent. You guys were 9-4 whenever you towed the rubber, but there was a stretch midseason from April 24th, starting with an NJIT game and then ending April 15th with the UMBC game, where they lost 3 out of your 4 starts. And it's not that you weren't pitching well, because you were still pitching pretty well, but there were a lot of defensive miscues. Your opponents were able to score, I think it was 8 unanswered runs. I mean, I talked about it during the season. I'm not remembering it now. It was 8 unearned runs. So when stuff like that happens, is there like a conversation that you have to have in the locker room with your fielders? Like, hey, we need to be better. I need to be better. You need to be better. We all need to be better. Like, how did you guys bounce back from that rough stretch to finish the season so strong?
Yeah. It's not a much more of a needing to be better. I think that it's, if someone were to make an error, unless it's in the outfield where I can't yell it to them, when they give the ball back to me, I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna get you another one. You make this one. It's just like quick, get it out of your mind, think about the next one, and it kind of spoke to some people, a couple people, talking off the field. They liked it, and it just kind of stuck with me, to where it could wipe that from someone's memory, because baseball is, it's such a mentally draining sport, to where there's certain things you have to do to forget the past and just focus on what's going to be in the present. And that's a lot of what we were taking into that Albany game. We were having such good at bats that entire game. And, instead of hanging our heads, like Coach Martin talks about, you're only good as your last at bat. And our last at bats in that bottom of the ninth is so that was really kind of the mindset of our team, is, what's important now, what's happening now. And Coach Sank would always say that as well, what's important now.
Now, before that 3 of 4 stretch, when you guys lost 3 of 4, obviously there was the much more impressive stretch when you guys won 15 of 16 games to begin conference play. What was going through your heads during that stretch? Like, was it, we'll never lose a game ever again? Like how cool was that? Have you ever been on a streak that impressive?
I'll tell you what, in baseball, I have not. I think that was one of the more impressive streaks. I'm pretty sure it was one of the best Stony Brook starts in conference in history, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, I believe the 10-0 at one point. What was it? 10-0 at home was the bet. Well, whatever. Anyway,
it was something of that nature, and like we mentioned earlier, everyone was so in sync, and one thing we preached was, just to not let off the gas. We wanted to keep the same energy, the same focus and intent that we had been having. And, how can we still get better? How can we still keep this going? How can we keep winning series? And that it wasn't really a mindset of, we're never going to lose this and that. It was more of, okay, this is who we are, and we're a hardworking team, and now how are we going to be able to maintain this the rest of the season? Because our coaches also talk about 3 different seasons. They have the first half, the second half, and then you have the postseason. So, we were thinking of, how are we going to keep this going into the second half of our season?
Now, when you guys finally lost that, that game to end the streak, I believe that was to NJIT at Joe Nathan Field. Was there like this, oh, right, that's what losing feels like? Was there that sense going through the dugout or the locker room, or were you just able to quickly turn the page?
Yeah, that series stung a little bit, and I think, part of that is what started getting things going with that team, and I think we needed it. Every team needs to feel a low to get back to a high. So I think, we were like, okay, this is our wake up call to get back into it, because we might have been too high up and we needed that.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it, but that is true, right? Like there is a certain number of overperforming to where you're setting the bar too high, to where you almost need a loss just to prove to everyone that you're human. So that way we don't rag on you when you do lose.
I'm sorry?
So what I was saying was, that's an interesting way to put it, that you almost needed that humbling, because winning like that, right, 15 of 16 games, that can almost set the bar to an unreasonably high point, to where, like, if you do keep winning and then you finally lose a game, maybe we rag on you guys. So it almost was like necessary for you to drop that series against NJIT. And of course, you guys survived. So
yeah, so it's humbling, and it's like, we needed it. Obviously, we're trying to win it, but I think that losing that, ultimately, we took it as something where it's not like they're better than us, but we need to keep working to duplicate what we did previously in the first half of the season.
Okay, and then I just want to ask you this. So who would you say, and you can name more than one, but who would you say your best teammate was? I don't mean as a player. I mean as a teammate, emotionally, motivationally, leadership-wise. Who was the best teammate you ever played with at Stony Brook?
Wow. Oh, man. I could get into the double digits with this one. Adam Erickson, easily one of my JUCO teammates I came in with. Nick DeGennaro, Evan Giordano, Chris Hamilton, Sam Turcotte, Mike Wilson from a couple years ago, Nick Grande, Brett Clark, Brad Hipsley. Man, I could go on and on and on and on. Brian Herman, him and his family, one of the first to take me in when I got here. Even LaRocca, he was here for 1 year, and he was amazing in every aspect. So it's tough to pick, and if I missed anyone,
Yeah.
People know who they are, but it's the whole team was such a mold into one every year that I was here. So it's tough to pick that one out.
Yeah, you just mentioned LaRocca, his only year. I'm sure that he was one of the greatest teammates that you played with this season, not to mention his little stunt in that game that didn't count against NGIT in the playoffs, where he stole home. We haven't really seen Stony Brook pull off a stunt like that in forever. Just how shocked were you that he decided to make that move and that it worked?
Man, that was one of the craziest things I've seen on a baseball field. I really I give him props for that, because that's not an easy thing to pull off, obviously, but then to even have the thought of doing it is out of the box. So but I think that's just the competitiveness of our team, and the mindset of, like I mentioned earlier, our seniors were willing to do anything that we could to get to the point that we were at, and to move on and keep playing, not only for ourselves, but for each other as a team. So, that was awesome. It was a special moment, and it really energized our team.
Yeah, so we talked extensively about your last start of the season against UAlbany. I just want to talk a little quickly about your first start of the season, which was the opening day, the first time probably in this century that Stony Brook has hosted a game to begin their 2021 season. You came into the game as the starter, went through 4 1/3. Then while the game was still scoreless at that point, Nick DeGennaro came in. Seeing how both you and DeGennaro showed off the ability to be starters throughout this entire season in that starting rotation, did you think it was unusual at that point to see you and DeGennaro playing in the same game?
If that was only a 3-game series, correct?
Yeah,
I believe it
against
was.
Was that Sacred Heart or Heart?
Yes, it was Sacred Heart, the final weekend of February.
Yeah, so ultimately, being that it was a 3-game series and how the rotation turned out from the fall, I don't think it was that odd to see DeGennaro there at that moment, because our rotation was set at 4, obviously, because we knew the conference was going to be 4 games. But he definitely deserved to be in that game 1. You know, whether it was going to be me or him. I think that we all needed to get our feet wet at the beginning of the season, and you know, that I wouldn't want to have. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to have any other guy coming in after me, because you know that's going to be a lockdown moment.
Yeah, and you provided that doubleheader sweep on my birthday too, so I appreciate that. Thanks for the birthday gift.
Awesome.
Yeah, not to mention how you got your little start a day after my birthday when your team went to UAlbany and managed to survive 6 innings while going through 114 pitches in what turned out to be quite a shootout. Your team, of course, getting the better end, 14-11. You know, there are a lot of runs featured in that game on both sides, but it's a good thing that your team drew the better straw.
Yeah. Oh man, that I still remember that. The wind, I think, was upper or lower 20s at the field at that point, and my hat was flying off like in between pitches, every other pitch. So and balls were flying all over the place. I had never played in a type of wind like that, and it really, I think it affected that game tremendously. I mean, it was probably 23 to 25 mile an hour winds going out to left field.
So what do you do? 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 So in a game like that, do you try to keep the ball low to make it harder for a hitter to lift that out?
Definitely. I think your mindset as a pitcher going into it is always to be low in the zone, but especially on those days, I think there's more emphasis on it, and staying away from the wind, you know, going to the outside corner maybe, giving them a tougher time to pull the ball to that left side to righties maybe. And our pitching coach, Tyler Cavanaugh, does a great job preparing us for that type of stuff. And going back to what we were talking about with the preparation of the coaches and all that with Coach Sank, it speaks volumes to a lot of our results during the season.
Yeah, well,
We're at the top of the hour. This is WUSB Stony Brook. On with Jared Milch, Stony Brook left-handed pitcher. Continue.
Awesome. Yes, let's keep this going. So anyway, what I was about to ask you, Jared, is, you know, you progressively got better throughout your Stony Brook career, right? Like year 1, there were some struggles. Year 2, obviously, was shortened, but you were pitching better at that point. And then this year, you were stellar. I mean, the 3.04 ERA, they were 9-4 when you towed the rubber. You were excellent this year. So what exactly did you work on these 3 years that culminated in this breakout, quote unquote, 5th and final season?
Yeah, I spent my summers this year, or the past 2 years, in the Northwoods League, and I think that had to do a lot with my development as a pitcher. Just like I said earlier, learning from a lot of guys and, you know, picking up different things. Our pitching coach, Tyler Cavanaugh, worked extremely hard with me. He really guided me in the areas that I needed to be at to keep progressing. And humbly, I'd like to say that I put in a lot of work to get to where I'm at today. I ask anyone in my family how much I think and work about the game to try and make myself better. So there's been a lot that's gone into it, and there's been many people along the way. Even my Stony Brook teammates, I'm still learning from guys that I played with. Sam, Brian, Adam. All these guys have a lot of great things to point out to me. So, yeah.
Now, do you know what's next for some of your fellow graduates, like guys like Turcotte and Brian Herman? Do you know what they're planning to do post baseball? Like, are they going to continue? Are they going to try to find an indie ball team like you did, or are they going into coaching, or are they starting their, professional careers elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's not really my business, I guess. I'm not. That's just, that they're kind of doing their thing, and I try to just connect with them and stay in touch and all that. So I'm not too in tune with that.
No, understood. But what has how in touch have you guys all been since that last game, or that last scheduled game at least? How often do you guys reach out? Do you still put in work with any of your teammates or ex-teammates now?
So we get Mondays off here with the Jackals. So I'm back in Long Island, like Sundays and Mondays with my boy Adam, and then with me, Brian Herman's birthday was, I think it was yesterday actually. And so we talked a little bit. I talked to Sam a couple of days ago. I'm talking to Chris every day, and a lot of our local guys I'm talking to. So there's still a lot of keeping in touch there.
That's awesome. That's actually really nice to know. I'm glad that it goes beyond the baseball field.
Totally.
So I was wondering this too. NJIT, not just NJIT, but I was thinking about Albert Choi and the Marcano brothers. They had some really talented hitters on that team, especially Choi. He was pesky. You couldn't really get him out. Who was your toughest single competitor that you faced? Not just this year, but is there anybody that sticks out that you ever thought of, wow, I can't get this guy out, or I can't throw my secondary stuff to this guy? Was there any hitter that you really had your number?
Yeah. Evan frickin' Giordano. I cannot get him out for 3 straight years.
That's fun. So you were glad that he was on your team then?
So glad. And he would see everything that I threw anyway. But being a teammate, probably Evan. Other teams, there was a I would probably go with Choi or Mom from Albany. He was really good. He got the only hit that allowed runs on me in that game. Yeah, I would say Mom from Albany was probably the toughest over the years that I faced. Mike Wilson, another.
Oh, okay. Right, I forgot about him.
Lefty even, and he was still really hard to face.
Now, what makes a hitter like those guys so difficult to face? Is it just their ability to put the bat on the ball, or was there some mental aspect of you trying to get them out and it just flat out wasn't working because you were too mental? Like, what do you think it was? What do you think it is really in the sport of baseball that just leads to some guys owning others? Because it happens at every level, every sport, it just happens.
A lot of times if you get them once, that all it takes is that first time, one time, and then after that you get that confidence, like, okay, I can do this already. And then, you face them a second time, you already had that confidence, you get another hit, and all of a sudden you're 2 for 2, and you're like, okay, I own this guy. I got all the confidence in the world. So I think it's definitely more mental, the aspect that goes into it. So yeah,
I should have asked you this way, like earlier in the interview, but we were touching earlier on how great an athlete you were. Like, you were a 2-sport prodigy in high school, almost a 2-sport athlete at junior college, basketball and baseball. And then I mentioned about how you can actually field your position pretty well for a pitcher. So did you play the field in high school as well? I mean, obviously being a lefty thrower, it would have had to have been first base or the outfield, but did you play the field at all, or have you been a PO since?
Man, I started PO like sophomore year of high school. The only time I played first base my freshman year of high school, and that was about the last year that the hitting was for me.
Were you any good? I mean, we're never gonna know, obviously, but did you ever hit any balls over?
I couldn't hit a beach ball, man. I could not hit a beach ball if I got in the box.
I mean, you're a pro pitcher, so what does that even matter anymore, right?
Right.
Now, being that you are a professional pitcher, right? No matter how we slice it, indie ball, minor leagues, major leagues, none of that matters. You're a professional baseball player. What is the threshold? What is the end game? How far do you want to go? Is there an end goal, or are you just going to keep going until you got nothing left?
I'm going right now. I don't know what the future holds right now. I'm just, there's the draft coming up in 2 weeks, or maybe a little less than that by now. But I'm working hard towards that. Luckily, signing with the Jackals has maintained my draft eligibility. So I'm really trying to prove to clubs and people that I can play at this level, and it's kind of been like a betting on yourself type of mentality. So the future's kind of unknown, but I'm just gonna keep pitching for as long as I can and see how it works out for me.
But you're a lefty pitcher. I mean, that alone, just on paper, will get you plenty of eyes at least, right? I mean, how many people have you ever told, yeah, I play baseball and I throw left-handed, and they go, oh, okay, so you pitch? Because, I played first base when I was in high school, and I was a good first baseman, so I never had any interest in pitching, but I'm a lefty thrower. And people would see me right with my left hand or whatever, and they'd say, oh, do you pitch? Like, so either way, you're always going to have that leg up, at least being a lefty pitcher. But is there like a dream major league team that you would like to be drafted by or sign with as an undrafted free agent? Like, is there a specific team, 1 out of 30, that you'd love to play for?
No. It's, whoever's willing to take a chance, that's going to become my new favorite club. So, I grew up a Giants fan, San Francisco Giants. It's the area I'm from. But any team could easily take that spot. So,
now, have you been following the Giants? I mean, now is a hell of a time to be following the Giants.
Oh man, yeah, they're the team of the decade.
That's right. I mean, hey, it's early in the decade.
That myself.
In my opinion, in the past decade, the 2010 to 2020.
That's right. I mean, hey, 3 World Series can't find anyone who won any more.
Yeah.
But were there any and you know what? That's actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you got to watch not only a lot of baseball, but a lot of great baseball, right? 3 World Series teams. They made the playoffs in 2016. They eliminated my Mets from that year. So with all of these great teams and specifically great pitchers that you've watched, were there any that you really modeled your game after? You know, I mean, there was Matt Cain, there was Tim Lincecum for a while. There was obviously Madison Bumgarner you compared to because of the lefty, the tall, lanky lefty. But was there any one particular San Francisco Giant that you were like, that's the guy who I'm going to emulate?
And yeah, funny, in high school I wore 75 because of Barry Zito.
Oh, right. Barry Zito.
Yeah, I
That's an
followed
obscure
him
one.
for a while. Yeah, a little throwback there. But I followed him for a while. He was very successful when I was younger. Since I've gotten older, I've started studying some newer guys like Blake Snell, Patrick Corbin, those type of guys where they kind of have similar motions as me, and I can model my game learning from them. But in the past, definitely Barry Zito being a Giant.
That's actually,
Well, guys,
that's a funny.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Barry Zito. I think of the Oakland Athletic Barry Zito, because, you know, when he went to San Francisco, he was not very good. But yeah, that's. I mean, Matt's old school. Matt over here, you know, he's a sports journalist, covered baseball for a million years. I'm sure when you said Barry Zito, Matt was probably thinking, Barry Zito. Oh, right, the Athletic.
Right.
Zito was a Giant for a little while.
Yeah, but
mostly made his name in Oakland, no doubt about it.
You know, Oakland is about 30 minutes from me as well. You know, you could pick either one, Oakland or San Francisco. So he was always kind of a Bay Area guy.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I followed him with both teams, really.